What if your sleep issues, anxiety, wrinkles, joint pain, and accelerated aging all stem from one missing nutrient? A nutrient so powerful that correcting its deficiency can help you slow down the aging process, and most people have never even heard of it. I'm talking about the amino acid glycine. So I'll walk you through exactly how to get more of it, starting with the easiest method you can use tonight. Now, Dr. Joel Brind, biochemist and the author of The Glycine Miracle, in addition to other researchers, have discovered something groundbreaking.
Let's think, why is inflammation worse now than it was for previous generations? Because previous generations, they used to throw the bones in the soup instead of the trash. And also, the meats, grass-fed beef and so on, has a lot more collagen in the muscle. Now, the amino acid differences between muscle and bone are really exacerbated because, the cattle are just fattened up on feedlots with the corn and soybean meal, and there's very little collagen even in the muscle meat.
Now, glycine is considered a non-essential amino acid because we can make it. Here's what most people don't know. We make about 3 grams daily. We eat 1.5 to 3 grams, but recent research has shown we may need around 15 grams for proper collagen turnover, glutathione production, and DNA synthesis. This creates what scientists call the glycine gap, and it might be aging you faster every day. So here are 6 research-backed reasons more glycine can be helpful and 5 simple ways to boost your intake. Reason number 1 is the longevity breakthrough. Glycine literally extends lifespan. When researchers restricted an amino acid called methionine, found in high amounts in muscle meats, rats live 30% longer. But what Dr. Brind discovered is when they're given glycine, they live 10 to 20% longer without restricting methionine.
Found out through experimenting with rats and mice and in terms of glycine supplementation. We found that, yes, the animals live longer if you give them glycine.
And here's the crazy part. Meat eaters who consume more protein actually have less glycine in their blood.
Well, for some reason, the meat eaters who had more of every amino acid because they had a much higher protein content in the diet, a much higher protein intake, guess what? They had the least amount of glycine in their blood. Remember, more methionine
Yeah.
uses up glycine. And guess who had the most glycine in their blood? The vegans.
Yeah.
This explains why decades and decades of research have shown, oh yes, it's much better to be a vegan than a meat eater because the protein content is different and plant proteins are better for you and all that. Well, it's just because when they do the animal proteins, they throw out the bones and the connective tissues. But when you eat the whole animal, you don't get those effects of glycine deficiency, more inflammation, more heart disease, more cancer, and earlier demise.
A recent human clinical trial using Glynac, which is glycine plus cysteine, in 24 older adults reversed multiple hallmarks of aging, including mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, and cellular senescence, because it helped produce more glutathione, our body's master antioxidant. Translation: glycine slows down aging and can possibly reverse it. Reason number 2, collagen production. Since glycine is the main amino acid in collagen and we lose 1% of our skin's collagen yearly after the age of 20, getting enough could improve collagen turnover, which can reduce wrinkles, improve skin hydration, reduce joint pain, and essentially help you look and feel younger. Reason number 3 is inflammation control. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Scientists have also discovered glycine acts like a trigger lock on certain immune cells, helping to prevent unnecessary inflammation.
Inflammation is not an appropriate response to injury, only to infection. The immune system has first responders. They're called macrophages. They're just like the first responders out there in society, the cops, the ambulances, the fire trucks. They can be activated in 2 ways. And they get activated to show up and clean up the mess, or they get activated to draw their weapons out and start shooting because some infection has gotten involved. The activation of those cells to produce inflammation is a process that is regulated by glycine. Glycine is just the natural trigger lock.
Here's how the trigger lock works when glycine levels are high enough.
It doesn't fight inflammation, it just turns it off. Just like the cops out there on the highway will respond to an accident, but they're not going to draw their guns and start shooting up the place unless there are bad actors present. But otherwise, They take accident reports and they redirect traffic and they call the ambulances and they call backup and that sort of thing. But they are in what we might call the mend mode rather than the rend mode.
Dr. Brind has experienced this firsthand after taking 10 grams daily for several years.
In the Home Depot, actually, I had to finish a little project at home and needed a little sheetrock. And my wife at the time was helping me to get it into the cart. Well, I stepped the wrong way at something and I fell directly onto my tailbone. Boom. 4 feet onto a concrete floor. And it hurt like hell. And the next morning, I felt absolutely 100% normal. I had this huge bruise at the bottom of my lower back to prove that this had happened, but there was no pain, there was no inflammation.
Now, this inappropriate inflammation can affect everything from ovarian cancer to heart disease.
Daily aches and pains that we get just from normal activity. And when I say normal activity, I mean things like blood circulation is a normal activity that because it's a high pressure fluid system in the branch ports of that system, you get turbulence. And when you get turbulence, you get micro injuries of the tissues lining the arteries. Well, so what? It just heals. It's natural, right? It's normal, right? But if you don't have enough glycine, inflammation.
Yeah, and what I love too is ovulation.
Yeah, sure. That's another natural process. That egg is like shot out of a cannon or a volcano. It produces injury at the surface of the ovary. And if you don't have enough glycine, then month after month, you get inflammation.
Because 3 out of 5 deaths worldwide are thought to be linked to chronic inflammation, preventing inappropriate inflammation is incredibly important. Reason number 4, diabetes and heart disease reversal. A 2008 study gave type 2 diabetics 15 grams of glycine daily, and their dangerously high HbA1c levels dropped from 8.3 to 6.9, essentially reversing diabetes without weight loss. And here's why that matters.
When you get obese, not only does the amount of fat increase in each cell, in the abdominal fat basically, but because those cells are more fragile and they get damaged very easily, you have more and more macrophages generating more and more inflammation because of glycine deficiency.
And obesity can also exacerbate glycine deficiency.
When you're obese, you're making less, so your glycine deficiency is exacerbated even more. You make less with age. You make less with obesity, less in cancer patients.
Reason number 5, brain health and depression breakthrough. Now, researchers at the University of Florida just discovered that glycine delivers a slowdown signal to the brain through a newly discovered receptor called GPR158. Now, this acts like a brake pedal for your overexcited brain, which may be able to help reduce anxiety and depression. As previously discussed, glycine's role in taming inflammation can also improve brain health in numerous ways.
The brain, yes. Well, of course, the microglia you were talking. Microglia are the macrophages, the first responders of the immune system that are resident in the brain. And so that's why glycine deficiency is implicated in degenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and so on.
Clinical trials show 10 to 60 grams daily can work as an adjunct therapy for schizophrenia, OCD, ADHD, and maybe even improve memory. Reason number 6, the sleep epidemic. 70 million American adults have sleep disorders, but just 3 grams of glycine before bed reduces the time to fall asleep and improves next day alertness. Since sleep is the foundation of health, fixing it can improve your mood and cognitive performance and virtually every aspect of your well-being. So, if glycine is so important, how do we get to a place where so many of us are deficient?
Again, glycine intake has gone down. In meat, fish, and poultry, it's more muscle meat, it's more of it. They throw out the bones and the connective tissues, so glycine deficiency is worse than ever.
And how much do we really need for best results?
And how do you know if it's healthy? Well, if you get inflammation from an injury, you know you're glycine deficient. That's a test. It's almost a given that the typical diet has 2 or 3 grams of glycine in it, and the average person needs about 10, so you need another 8.
In other words, we need 3 to 5 times more than most people get. That's about 8 to 10 additional grams daily.
A lot of inflammation you don't feel. You do feel inflammation when you get injured and you feel pain and so on, but all that stuff going on inside your arteries and inside your pancreas and inside your ovaries and inside your breast and all of that, that goes on silently.
Yeah.
Till many years later, you may get sick. Artery disease, you may get cancer, you may get diabetes. Inflammation is something that's not always something we can feel.
So here are my top 5 ways to get more glycine. 1 is to eat skin, bones, and tendons. Stop throwing away some of the most glycine-rich cuts. 2, upgrade to grass-fed and pastured meats, which naturally contain more collagen and glycine. Number 3, drink bone broth daily. Bones are glycine gold mines, so try simmering bones with water at home, or you could try our bone broth protein powder if you don't enjoy the flavor of bone broth, as it comes in caramel and chocolate flavors. 4 is glycine supplements. Now, pure glycine powder is sweet tasting and dissolves easily. And Sweetamine, a sweet supplement formulated by Dr. Joel Brind himself, contains 8 grams in a single dose and can be added to anything from coffee to oatmeal. Number 5 is magnesium glycinate. As Dr. Brind notes, magnesium glycinate is 86% glycine. My point is, what we call aging might actually be chronic glycine deficiency, creating immune system overdrive.
Macrophages everywhere in every organ of your body, and they're always looking for trouble, right?
Yeah.
Just like having a police force, they're out there cruising looking for trouble.
Yeah.
And they'll be trigger happy if there's not enough glycine around, and so they will make trouble. People say to me, oh, glycine is the cure. It's not a cure or anything. It's a nutrient. You need to
it's a
eat every day.
deficiency.
Now, this isn't about treating disease. It's about correcting a fundamental nutritional deficiency that many of us have been building for decades. One that might be speeding up the rate of aging, contributing to an overactive immune system, reducing the quality of your sleep, and maybe making you feel more tense and irritable than you otherwise might be.
Inflammation is not an appropriate response to injury, only to infection. That's the real discovery, that and the role of glycine in that. But it's really about getting the whole meaning, the whole purpose of inflammation wrong in the first place.
So start with 3 grams before bed for sleep. Add bone broth to your daily routine. Eat nose to tail. Now, if this opened your eyes, hit that like button and subscribe for more health tips. And be sure to tell me in the comments what surprised you most and which strategy you'll use first to fill your glycine gap. Also, be sure to share this with someone you think it might help. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.